Okay, sounds good.
All right, so I'm going to start and introduce myself. I'm Bekah with CFH Powerlifting, and not that you need it, but I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Rheta West from Blood Iron Barbell.
All right, and I'm going to just let you tell us a little bit about your background and kind of what you do daily. Just your
Okay.
daily life.
Background, I was a competitive powerlifter for like 13, 14 years. The bodybuilding overlapped that last year. So IFBB Pro for about 3 years now, bodybuilder. And I own a gym in Syracuse, New York, Blood Iron Barbell. It's a small power gym, private power gym in Central New York. It's actually one of the more sought out gyms here in New York. Well, at least upstate New York. My day-to-day really is just the gym stuff. You know, I mean, I train. I have a couple things going on. So I've got the Blood Iron, the booth at the Arnold Expo coming up first weekend of March. So as far as training goes, I'm just kind of training to beef up a little bit for that, you know. Look impressive behind the booth, I guess. But and then there's some meets going on up here. I'm really not sure if I'm even going to compete this year. So if I do, it won't be until later in the year. So right now my day-to-day is just like getting ready for the Arnold. I have my meet, and then there's a couple of other meets I'm sanctioning because I own a federation, XPS, and I have a couple other meets that I'm sanctioning here, all right around in the right after the Arnold. I have shoulder surgery coming up. It's really quick recovery, but I'm taking care of all of that so that I can prepare to be ready to compete later in the year if I wanted to. But and then that bench meet that I have coming up. So really my day right now is kind of organizing. You know, I'm doing some things with the gym, but kind of trying to stay on top of some organization stuff for the meets coming up.
And rumor has it you have an adorable grandchild.
Oh yes. It's actually true. Yeah, he's two now. Yeah, yeah, actually, right? I you know, because I don't really put a lot of like super personal stuff up on Facebook. You know, social media. My social media is more like a commercial really than anything else. But I did get to go see him. I went and saw him last weekend, and it was the first time he actually called me grandma. So that was so exciting.
That was a great weekend, huh? Yeah. So the first question that I ask everybody, and this is kind of one of my favorite questions, is, you know, most men in our sport grew up watching World's Strongest Man, obviously Arnold. You know, for me, it was Conan the Barbarian, but
Yeah.
You know, shrink sports were on every channel, magazine, shelf, everywhere. That's how they were introduced to it. How were you introduced to this sport, and when was that moment that you decided that you wanted to be strong?
You know, I think that because I really didn't watch any sports things. I did not know what powerlifting was growing up. I don't even know if I'd heard of World's Strongest Man. I mean, I knew what bodybuilders were, but even as a younger person, I was always like impressed by what I call badass women, you know, like Xena the Warrior, you know, the strong women, the women that kicked ass, you know, things like that. So I don't know whatever actually made me start. I don't know what made me want to start lifting, but I started when I was like 15, and I used to get in some trouble. So I was actually in a juvenile facility, and I started lifting to avoid having to go play kickball with everybody. I just wanted to stay by myself. And so I started lifting there, but I don't know what possessed me to actually start lifting. You know, but that's where I started. And then I left it for a while after I got out and came back to it in college. And then I left it and had kids and then came back to it. Now, when I came back to it again, I always kind of lifted a little bit differently. So I never really had anyone to look up to in lifting. It was just something I like to do. I wanted to be strong. You know, I've always aspired. I realize I'm a very realistic person. I realize that I'm not going to lift more than the guys, but that's what I look to. And that's what I, you know, tried to race with and what I wished I could, you know, lift as much as. And but it was just, I just went in there and suffered. That's all I really did. And it wasn't until I went back to start lifting, and I was introduced to a family of powerlifters out in Fonda up here in New York. And they were powerlifters. The whole family lifted. And that's what got me into powerlifting. And actually, because they put me right in equipment. The first day I was there, they put me in a bencher and was able to bench. Now, at the time, it was 175 pounds, but at the time, it was like way more than I was able to bench on my own. And I found that exhilarating. And so that would be my first even introduction to powerlifting. So I really never looked at anybody else for the lifting. It was kind of an inner thing. But then once I was introduced to it, I would say like Bev Francis, for some reason. And then I had a friend who had another woman that was in the same weight class. So I started watching Cara Behegan. So they would be the two I started looking to when I first started. But until then, it was just kind of an inner thing.
So I have to ask, were you introduced to that family by the person that told you women don't deadlift?
No, actually, it was him that sent me to, there was a powerlifter here. His father was a powerlifter. That was the gym manager at the place I went to. That was so ridiculous. He was so ridiculous.
And I asked because the deadlift is my favorite lift. And I was like, yes, we do.
Right. It was just ridiculous. And he was just so matter of fact. I mean, just completely dismissed, didn't even let me finish my sentence. And I'm like, excuse me, and then to talk to me as if I didn't even understand what a deadlift was. I'm like, I know what a deadlift is. Why do women not do that? But, and so then, so that's a good point. And I really wasn't even thinking about that, because at that point, my mission was to show him that I was stronger. Every time I saw him, guess what I deadlifted today, Jay? And, so he had introduced, his father was a powerlifter who saw Mark Van Alstyne. That's a guy, he's like a physical therapist, chiropractor type, not chiropractor, he's like a physical therapist person here, but he also was a powerlifter. And I went out to see him, and he was the one who referred me out to the powerlifting family, because he knew them well, and they were good at taking people in, teaching them how to lift, that kind of thing. So
Van Alstyne, is that the same as the Gorilla Pack Van Alstyne family? Jean Van Alstyne?
Who?
Richie Putnam's wife was a Van Alstyne.
Oh, was she? I don't think, you know what? He knows those guys.
Yeah, Richie Putnam's wife was a Van Alstyne.
So I guess it's possible, but I didn't think that he was related to any of them.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I guess it is possible, because I do know.
Yeah, I mean, they're all in Fonda, so. All right, well, so yeah, Barry had told me that quote, and I was like, yes, we do.
Yeah.
So we now, obviously in our world right now, open powerlifting is, you want to do a whole lot of back digging in magazines and everything else. Open powerlifting is where we get our information. On open powerlifting, you've done 36 meets with 35 first place. So if you've shown up, nobody else needed to, kind of. And I actually have a question, because your raw total is actually more than your single ply total. Your raw total is 1240, single ply is 1220, and then multiply is 1625. Of course, when I look at it, I'm like, why is your raw total more than your single ply total? So let's talk about that.
All right. Stop it. My dog's here, and I don't know what she's making noise at. So yeah, single ply was never really my thing. I started in multiply. I've only done, I think, 3 raw meets in my whole life. And really, I only did them to prove that I could do that too, because from the dawn of time, you had the back and forth between the equip and raw. The single ply, I only got into because I was doing some meets with the USPA, and not as a favor, but I had met somebody, and he was like, he kind of got me into these meets. They were over in California. It was the West Coast USPA, and Steve Denison's, let's see, there was one, I did the Olympia, and I did one at the LA Fit Expo. And so, I'm sorry, hold on. Aries. So that was the only reason I even did the single ply. And I wasn't very good at it. I couldn't figure it out. It doesn't have the support of the multiply, and it doesn't give me it didn't give me the freedom to move like I can in raw. And so I just wasn't the greatest at it. The bencher I wound up being okay in, but that was because I my shirt was like the size that it literally looked like it belonged on a Barbie doll. And it took like 2 people to put me in and 3 people to get me out. And I used to jack it all the way down. And so but I never knew how to manipulate the squat suit that way, you know, so I just never really did well with the single ply.
Yeah, single ply squat suit is just like a small singlet. Like it did,
Yeah.
yeah. And for anybody that's watching that isn't familiar, because I do have people that watch my, you know, our podcast or Zoom, whatever it is. I don't even know at this point. That don't really know a lot about powerlifting, but you know, the USPA is more raw and single ply, whereas you know, IPA, XPS, XPC, that's more multiply. I mean, raw and single ply as well, but the USPA is kind of known for raw and single ply. So hence why you didn't do multiply in USPA. So your first meet then I would assume would have been multiply, or obviously it was equipped and not raw. It would have been multiply. Do you remember that first meet, stepping onto the platform for the first time, and what was that like?
Yeah, but you know what? The people I came up with, they were the McCaslins out in Fonda. And they were just great people, and training, you know, it was a very comfortable environment. It wasn't that they didn't take things seriously, but we joked around a lot, and it was just very comfortable. So when we went someplace together, it was, you know, Zane used to always say, it's just another day in the gym. And that's the way we treated it, you know? So not only that, I mean, my first meet was at their place. And so it kind of, you know, it was kind of comfortable. That was where I trained anyway. And so I don't remember being super nervous. I mean, my bench was always hit and miss for like the first 3 years of powerlifting. So I'm sure that had me, but I know I remember thinking I could deadlift the world, and, and then my squat just, you know, that one came up fast. I am not I mean, you know, like, so when I first started powerlifting, it was like, oh, I don't know what I can do, but I was never afraid to go for it. You know what I mean? So I don't remember being super nervous. I remember my bench making me nervous here and there, because sometimes it was just like, well, I just, you know, I mean, that could be what I bomb on today. But as far as competing, you know, I was just excited to be there.
Right. Yeah, that's how we train with our son too. Like the gym is just a competition is just another day in the gym. Like we're just, you know, we're just gonna go. Other people are just gonna watch us today, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We didn't even really do cycles. I mean, we just like, you know, like, it's not like, okay, I have a meet coming up in 3 months, so I'm going to be on an 8-week prep cycle. We didn't even do that. We just trained. And whenever everything was like doing good, we were like, okay, let's find a meet right now. You know, I mean,
yeah. I'm going to switch gears for just a minute, and let's talk about the IFBB, and just a little bit about, so 2 questions, well, several questions, but one, so you had, and again, anybody outside of our sport may not know some of the names or all that, but I don't really care because I know them and we're going to talk about them. And the first one we're going to talk about is because my husband was like, yay. So how did you get, I guess, introduced or hooked up with Michael is it Francois, I believe is how it's pronounced? Yeah. How did you get hooked up with Michael Francois? Because I mean, amazing bodybuilder.
Yes. I had well, he wasn't one of my, so before I owned this gym, I owned a gym called Hercules Gym. And before I owned it, I was a member there for about 12 years before I even owned it. There was a guy who was a member there just before I started. His name was Blair Moan. And he was kind of like a Hercules legend, you know, and he used to come and visit. So I did meet him and knew who he was, talked to him, and I was a big part of Hercules. And so even though we really never trained around each other, knew each other like that, we were kind of always, you know, fairly good friends. And so bodybuilding actually wound up being another one of those things that I tried just to say I tried that too, you know. And when I was trying to think of who I might go to help coach, it was like, well, you could pick these local people who, you know, maybe they know what they're doing, maybe they don't, but who, you know, how are their people faring on stage? Or, you know what, let's just go to the top. This guy's putting pros out, let's just go to him, you know. And I didn't know a whole lot of people, but Blair Mike was Blair's coach. And so I just went straight to him.
Fair enough. And you said that bodybuilding was just another, kind of something that you just wanted to do for you. What was that like? What was that transition from powerlifting to bodybuilding like for you, mentally and physically? Because it is,
Yeah,
it's very different.
it is.
Everything's different. The training's different. The diet's different, all of it. So what was that like for you?
Personality wise, I am not a bodybuilder. I mean, there's some people who just can't run. There's some people who seem to, for whatever reason, can run all day, right? And that's how I'm a powerlifter. I am a powerlifter. I can force myself to, do the bodybuilding. I can force myself to run for a mile if I had to, but bodybuilding was hard for me. Now the training wasn't that bad. And I actually worked with Mike for, I want to say it was almost a year. I want to say it was almost a year, but maybe I'm remembering wrong. But it was a long time on diet before I ever actually started preparing for the show. And so even before that, I was never one of the bigger powerlifters, a heavier. I kind of always wanted to be strong and a little bit more lean, that kind of thing. But then after working with Mike for a while, he leaned me out. I mean, and I never did any cardio. He leaned me out a lot more. And then we got ready for a show. So at that point is when it actually really got very different for me. I guess kind of too, because when my first show was only a few months after my last powerlifting meet. So part of that just overlapped. But there's a certain point where it's not that bad. Yeah, maybe it's a little uncomfortable. I don't like the diet. I didn't get to eat as much as I want. I'm the kind of person who wants to be full. I don't want to just not be hungry. I want to feel like there's food in my stomach.
Right.
And you don't get that. And so, it wasn't the easiest, it wasn't the most comfortable thing, but it wasn't that big a deal. And the training, I have always lifted bodybuilder-ish. I've always been more reps than the typical powerlifter. So, the training wasn't really much of a switch for me. I had to get used to focusing on using the muscles I was supposed. What I did find funny is that going from powerlifting to bodybuilding is, as a powerlifter, I'm good at getting everything tight. My back, my shoulder blades, my ass, everything is nice and tight, and I do my lift. And I would, as a bodybuilder, I literally had to shake myself out and focus on just using the muscle I'm supposed to be training at the time. So that was a little bit different. But once you get to this certain point, you get to this point where it's okay, it hasn't been comfortable, but it hasn't been too bad. Now you have to step over this line into this whole other world. And that was actually very hard for me. More mentally, I think, than physically. I mean, I was hungry, but mentally that was it was kind of like torture to me. You know what I mean? And there was times when, because it's not even just, I've said that, with powerlifting, you can be very willful. You can take your ibuprofen, get through a workout, even if it hurts, and then go home and ice it, you're done, right? Whereas bodybuilding, it never stops. From the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep, and God forbid you wake up in the middle of the night for some reason, because you're hungry as soon as you wake up. And so it's just it was constant focus and will, and you had to be dialed in the whole time. And for me, I don't do things half-assed. And so it wasn't even a matter of, I wasn't going to cheat. I'm not one of those people. I don't do a little cheat just to get myself through it. So it was very difficult for me. That last end part was very difficult for me, to stick to, because that just wasn't my thing, but, so for bodybuilding, what I say, what I get more out of bodybuilding is I could care less about being on stage and getting to do my little 2-minute routine or whatever. For bodybuilding, the whole thing was more about that suffering I went through during prep and feeling accomplished for wanting so badly to give in right up until days before a show, and just being I don't care anymore. I just want something to eat, and not doing it. That's that suffering that I went through and get through. And, that's what makes me feel accomplished about bodybuilding.
Yeah, I can see that. And especially coming from a powerlifting standpoint, because for us, when you're going through anything mental, what do you want to do? You want to go to the gym, you want to lift something heavy, and then you want to go eat a steak.
Yeah.
And if you're going through
Yeah.
anything mental, that's what you do as a powerlifter.
Yeah.
You go to the gym and you lift some heavy shit. And I would
Yeah.
assume that was probably pretty hard to not be able to just go lift something heavy and then throw a finger in the air and walk out.
Yeah.
So, So your show was the IFBB Pro in Chicago in 2020, correct? That was
My first one was in Buffalo in
okay.
2018. And then like a month and a half later, I did the North Americans in Pittsburgh.
Mhm.
And so that was 2018 still. And that's where I got my pro card.
Right. The most recent one that you did was the
Oh,
one
I
in
see. The most
Chicago,
recent was
correct?
Savannah Pro.
Huh?
The most recent one was Savannah Pro last year.
Okay, gotcha. And I guess that's the one that I followed the most.
Oh,
And you looked amazing. Like for me to watch the transformation from, Rheta West powerlifter to Rheta West bodybuilding. And the same thing's going on right now with Kathleen James. I love to see the check-ins and
yeah.
if you follow along and you watch it, it's just like, I'll be honest, I don't have that willpower. Like I will never be a bodybuilder. I'm just going to throw that out there. It's not happening. Like it's just not going to happen. But it's so, it's just, I'm in awe of watching the transformation and so yeah, I mean, this one you did recently, I was just like, so look at that. How does she do that? So
this last one was actually a big deal to me too, for that reason. I mean, I definitely got leaner. It was harder than any of the other ones. I got leaner than I ever have before. It was the hardest one to actually stick out and get through. And I was very proud. I was very proud of how I came out of that one.
And you should have been. You looked phenomenal.
Thank you.
So you have a couple big things coming up. I know you've got, what booth are you doing what are you doing at the Arnold this year?
I'm selling a few of my gym t-shirts. I'll have some Blood Iron ones here, but mostly just like the funny saying type t-shirts. And it was mostly, just for t-shirt sales really, but to be there. I know that there's some people who like to support the gym or say hi or whatever. They never really get the chance to come out and, so it's my first booth. I was supposed to do one a couple years ago, and that's when COVID, the pandemic thing started. But so it's mostly selling t-shirts. I will have, becoming a bodybuilder has also brought in this whole new world of fans. And so I do have some of my pictures from both my contest and it's a professional shoot that I did that, I'll kind of slap some like my bicep size and maybe a diet or workout or something on the back of them and sell them for autographed things. Or so it's both, t-shirt sales and meet IFBB Pro boss bitch Rheta West, And so I'll take selfies or something with people that want to do that.
Well, unfortunately, we have decided we are not going because otherwise I would be first in line to hug you. But we'll be up to New York. We're going to, just with all of our health issues this past year, it's just too much right now. So we are not going to go to the Arnold, but we're going to drive to PA in July for mine and Rob's meet. But
okay,
we're going to take some.
I'm going to be there. I want to come down.
Yay! Yeah. Okay, just awesome. Because we're going to take
for anything you need, whatever.
Oh, that would be fantastic. I love that. Yeah, because we're going to take some detours along the way. We'd like to take a day and stop by and maybe get in a workout with Charlie, with Shell, and stop by and get in a workout with Shauna and Jay. And so, just kind of hit all the CFH gyms that, have kind of come into our family. That since we're not taking the week to drive up to the Arnold and stuff like that, we're just going to take an extended vacation in July and just kind of visit everybody that has supported us, this past year since everything kind of went crazy. But I'm really glad that you're going to be at the meet. So that makes me happy. So now, because I was like really sad that we weren't going to the Arnold because all my people are going to be there. Anybody, but I mean, it was the only decision for us. Like it just was. We had to make that decision for us. So you also have a very big bench meet coming up in September. Rob is sponsoring. I would assume he's the biggest sponsor.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's your only sponsor, but I know he's one of your biggest sponsors, which is why we're not doing a bench only day this year. We're steering everybody towards you. thank you, by the way, for that, because that means
Well,
we
thank
just have
you.
full power and we can move on. So let's talk about that. What do you have going on for that? Is it
Somebody got in an F8 recently. I saw a video.
Yeah, we're getting to that. We're getting to that. We'll get there in just a second. So what do you have planned for that meet?
So right now I'm still looking at what venue I want to have. It's going to be here in Syracuse, but the actual venue. And I had kind of had an idea of renting a basketball court in one of the older gyms here, and I was going to kind of try to maybe simulate an old school like YMCA meet or something, you know what I mean? But yeah, they said that their floors might not handle it if the weight hit the floor, and I'm like, yeah, we can't have people falling through. So so I'm probably going to be looking towards a hotel, here in the area. It's right off, we got plenty of them right off the highway, and it's nice to have your, book room right there in the hotel and everything. And but Anderson Powerlifting, I just want a minute. Anderson Powerlifting is also another big sponsor right now of the meet. So I have those two. Rob is definitely the biggest, but Anderson did a very generous sponsorship. And so now I'm looking for, some others like smaller ones, because I'm not charging any entry fees for this. So all, monies for things are coming out of sponsorship. And so I'm very happy that the cash prize I have up to like 6,000 right now. So and I'm going to keep adding to that as other people come in for sponsoring. But yeah, I was super excited about this. It kind of was like the perfect storm. I was surprised that as many people accepted, and then I figured, a lot of them would drop out, and only a couple of them have dropped out since, now they're all getting their registration forms in and everything. And so this is going to be, I dare say, historic. I don't know myself of this many like high caliber, because I really set the bar high for what I was accepting, the invites I put out, and I knew that, but it was because I didn't want this huge meet. I wanted it to be super elite. And so I'm just in awe of how many of these top level people accepted. And so I'm just going to do whatever I can. I want this to be spectacular. I want them to be appreciated. I'm super proud. I mean, not of just the people that everybody watches and follows that have accepted and are going to be there, but of some of the people that qualified at that super high level I set. Are people that some of them weren't even on social media. Some of them just happened to, somebody told them that they saw their name on this list. And I am excited to give those people some recognition. You know what I mean? Whether for whatever reason they're not on social media, and not to say that they are seeking that kind of recognition, but I think that it's absolutely deserving, of course. But it's nice, to just realize that people think that what you're doing is just amazing. And I want every one of those people to know that what they do is amazing, whether they know it or not, or know how amazing they are. I want them to all know they're amazing. And so I'm really looking forward to giving people a great platform and a great sense of appreciation, and hopefully build something that will attract other people to want to come in and help me put something bigger together next year, to keep it growing, or to do something else like maybe Raw or something. I don't know, but I want it to grow. So
from a meet director standpoint, I really appreciate the work that you're putting into this, because it's not easy. There's a lot that goes into it, and it's a lot of time and a lot of energy, and especially to put together a meet that is specifically like, it's all about the lifter and the safety and the fun, like to just make sure they have a good time, that they enjoy themselves. So two quick things. One, CFH would like to sponsor as well. So when we're done with this, I'm going to get with you, and we will absolutely be a sponsor of that meet.
Oh, thank you.
And I believe, and I haven't done my research, so I may be wrong. I may be completely wrong here, but I think we may have one of our team members lifting in your meet. Chris Golden, and I'm not sure. I know he's lifting. Is he lifting in your meet as well? So he's actually one of mine and Barry's team members. He was one of the original members of CFH. So we may have to make a trip to New York in September. Yep. So he is just an unbelievable guy. He would be one of those that you aren't going to see on social media. He's very quiet. He just West Texas boy, trains, works, and spends time with his wife and kids.
Yeah.
But just crazy strong. He been about 2 years ago, maybe 3 now, was a little impatient and the guys were on their way to the gym, but he decided he was just going to go ahead and unrack his squat himself and blew his knee out. Like, it's on the camera, on the gym camera. And so he,
Grotesque.
yeah, it was quite stomach turning.
Was this just recently?
It's been a couple years ago.
Oh,
He's kind of gone to bench only
gotcha.
since then. Great bencher, great guy. So yeah, I really appreciate you doing the bench only for the guys like that and he has busted his butt to qualify. He's doing the Arnold and then your meet. And so again, from a coach standpoint, thank you for that as well.
Absolutely.
So let's swing back to, I want to go back to powerlifting for just a second, and let's talk about the women in powerlifting right now and everything that they're doing, and give me your thoughts on that.
I think it's really truly a wonderful thing. I think you were talking about like in my meets and a lot of first places, and it was really most of the time I really didn't have any competition. I mean, there just wasn't that many women. And then once I started getting to the top, there was like one big woman in every weight class. I think one of the most exciting things that ever happened to me is when Laura Phelps came down to 148 and we went head to head at a meet, and I was like, oh my God, this is just amazing. I was like, we need to keep doing this. And unfortunately it didn't keep going, but she doesn't come well to 148. So she didn't want to keep doing that. But yeah, that was exciting. That was like super exciting because you never had, you always had guys shit talking each other and I say that, on a friendly way, it was
right.
they go head to head at a meet or whatever. And you just didn't get that with women. And so I think that, Laura Phelps's women's meet was probably the most amazing meet I ever went to. And it was for that reason. It was an entire meet full of women who they trained like men. They took that platform like a man. It didn't matter if, they didn't care what you thought about how they looked or what they were taking. It didn't matter. They were out there to lift as much as they possibly could. They took it seriously and it was all for them. And that was just the most amazing meet I ever did. And I did it every year for as long as I was still powerlifting from that point forward. And you're seeing that more now in women, they're and what I mean is like coming into this, not that they weren't serious before, but it's almost like the difference of, not to say everybody was like this, but it's almost like a difference of where a woman might be like, well, I'll try this out, or maybe I'll do it because my boyfriend's doing it, or maybe I'll do it with my friend or whatever. Whereas now they're coming up and they're being like, no, I'm coming for this record. I'm coming for, I'm in this because I want to do it. And maybe she's the only woman in her team, or, it's more, more women are coming together and doing this because they want to. And I don't know if it's because it's becoming a little more accepted. I know that when I started, you still had women didn't want the big muscles, or they didn't want, they didn't want to look like a boy, things like that. It wasn't as accepted. I actually was in a relationship when I started powerlifting, and he was like that. And I wound up actually leaving. We've been together for 8 years, and I actually left him because he just didn't really approve of powerlifting. And so now it's just, so maybe it's because it's more accepted now, but I thoroughly enjoy the women coming at this as serious as any man, and, coming after what's theirs. I think that it still has room to grow, definitely. I do get a little irritated when you hear women complaining about not getting as much as the men, but still any meet, they're still, out of every 10 lifters, 8 of them are guys. Okay. So if you got to go get your ass out on the platform and put your, put where your mouth is. But really inspiring. Yeah. The not that there's just more women, but that the way they're coming at it, their attitude towards the whole lifting and wanting to be as strong as possible, not doing it, just daintily, but like going out there and going after it,
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's still the other side of it too, where, I'm not a big girl, but I'm strong. I mean,
Yeah.
not much right now because I've been sick, but I'm not a big girl, but I am strong. And people
Mhm.
are like, you can't be that strong and not look like a boy, but you can do both things. You can do both.
Yes.
And
Yes.
yeah, but I totally agree. We've got to get more women on the platform. You have to get more women on the platform. You just have to.
Yeah.
Or stop complaining.
Yes, absolutely. When I first started lifting, I was the only female in my gym at night. There was some women in the morning, and I lifted with men. And those men, those men never complained about breaking the bar down for me or, anything. They let me come in, and I went in there busting my ass to prove that I deserved that respect, to earn the respect I had. And so, there's not a whole lot of weight in sitting around and talking. You got to get out there and you got to show that you deserve to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are more and more women in every meet that we have. There are more and more signing up, and that's very exciting to see.
Yes, it is.
And let's face it, our sport is always going to be full of drama. It is.
Yeah.
On both sides, male and female.
Yeah.
Yeah, the men complain more than the women do. I really believe that they do. But it's really exciting to see, especially in our little our family, between CFH and Blood Iron and F8 and Anderson, and this conglomeration that we kind of have. It's so encouraging. Laura's group and your group and Shauna's group, and like when you get them all in the same room, like everybody's just pushing each other, and that's so it's exciting to see. Like it makes it fun. There's competition, but it's friendly. It's
there's nothing wrong with competition.
Right.
And
Yeah.
everybody pushes each other and makes each other better.
Yeah, Kelly Duffy and I were talking about this, at not the baddest bencher, at the what's the bench competition that they have at the Arnold, Richie and them's last man standing. She had locked her keys in the car and had no equipment. So everybody pulled together and gave her equipment, but yet they still competed together, so she's competing with somebody else's equipment. But yeah, like that's the kind of stuff that I love to see. And you're seeing it more and more and more.
Yes.
As more people, especially more women. I mean, let's face it, women are a lot more giving than men.
Sure.
We just are. That's our nature, especially when we're moms and everything else. But as more women are coming into the sport, there's more women giving to each other and then competing with each other. And I just think it's really fun to watch. So
I do want to say too, I don't mean to say that, because the women that are coming in that are smaller or, just starting out or, like, I don't mean that is exciting too. I don't mean to say that I'm like looking for all these like
no,
women.
and I didn't.
I mean, that's a great thing because you're right. And when you say there's more and more women in the meets, to be honest, and the majority of because I'm seeing that too in my meets, and the majority of them are, younger or newer or whatever lifters, but we all start somewhere. And I think that's great because they're the future, they're the future ones that are going to be out there,
well, and I guess
storming the platform and
I didn't take it that way at all. What I guess my point is, it's okay to look however you want.
Yes, absolutely.
It is okay to take what you want, look how you want, do whatever you want to do in this sport. It's okay. Just be yourself. That's where I'm at. If you're small and dainty and strong, great. And if you want to be strong and you're small and dainty and you're not strong, then do what you need to be strong. Like it's okay.
Exactly.
We're all okay with it. Just be yourself.
And that's what my whole boss bitch thing is about. It's about knowing what you want, figuring out how to get it, and just putting the work in to do it, and not, worrying about what other people think about it, and, and not like complaining about things or whatever, but get up and go do the work. That's all that, that's about.
And don't compare yourself to somebody else.
Yeah.
Just don't. because you can only beat yourself.
Yeah.
So, I got way off track and I don't even know what I was going to ask something else about bodybuilding, but I don't remember what it was. So, any other hobbies or fun facts that we don't know about you?
Well, let's see. I'm not sure people actually realize how old I am. And so what's funny is that I'm kind of getting to a point in life where I'm like slowing down a little bit, And so I've been doing puzzles and playing with my grandson and wearing my bifocals, And so I think that right now, actually, I've come to it's definitely a different place in life. I'm not competing in powerlifting anymore due to like injuries, And as far as bodybuilding goes, I mean, there's things about it, first of all, it's not something I don't have the time in life to put a whole nother career into something, and I'm doing well only because as much time as other people put into bodybuilding, I was putting that amount of time into building my muscles through the powerlifting. So that's the only reason I'm even able to do as well as I do right now. I will probably never win the Olympia. I don't know if I'll ever step on the Olympia stage. And that really, I mean, it would be nice to be able to say I did that, but that's not something I'm really worried about being able to do anyway. I enjoy what I'm doing right now. And I think that the way that I have placed in the last couple of shows is kind of odd, and so I don't know if there's I know I have like some ab distension issues that trying to figure out exactly what's causing that, but I also I'm not, I'm also not one of the most feminine women in the world, and I don't carry a very feminine presence even on stage, and so I'm just kind of doing what I like to do right now. And just being out there and looking the way I want. I mean, right now, my goal is I'm working on getting to 200 pounds at 15% body fat. And so just little things like that. They're really, my goals right now don't really have anything to do with competition. And I'm just kind of living life right now, and it's still very centered around, I mean, I have some things that I want to do with my gym and my federation, but I'm definitely in a different place where I'm kind of just thinking about enjoying things more than worrying about like the whole competition thing. Not that I didn't enjoy that, but you're on it's kind of like a job, when you're competing, and I'm just kind of living right now and doing
There's
what I want to do.
There's definitely a timeline for competing as well. Like it's just a point where I think we just kind of hit an age where we're like, all right, you know what, let's let the young kids do it.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna direct the meet now. It's easier. Yeah. It's more stressful, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Any advice that you have for younger lifters, female, male? What's your biggest takeaway from all of this?
I think that first of all, learning as much as you can is extremely important. I think that it has maybe gotten more difficult rather than less difficult to learn what you should be doing with everything being on social media and YouTube, because unfortunately then not only is there so many differing opinions on methods and all this kind of business, but unfortunately you also get a lot of where people, they really truly believe they know what they're doing, but they're presenting things that maybe aren't the best as far as form, or just flat out aren't true or whatever. But if you sound like you know what you're talking about, people follow that, and then they take that and give it to somebody else in their gym. And so I think that it is sometimes it's a little more difficult right now to figure out exactly what you should be doing as far as form. Not all women need to be sumo because their hips are stronger. They also don't need to bench narrow for some reason. I don't know why that's a thing either. I mean, it doesn't have, so right. I think I say to just learn everything that you can. You're never going to learn enough. I still, even when I had world records, I was still going to Westside so I could learn more. You are never going to learn it all. So always be looking to learn more. And if you're working with anybody that for some reason is offended or, offended that you are seeking out other people to ask and work with as well, then there's something wrong with that person. You know, because there should be no reason why you know, shouldn't want to be out experiencing as much as possible and learning from absolutely everybody. So learn as much as you can and always know that you are already stronger than you know. I think that we have our brains limit us. You know, it tells us, oh, okay, that was heavy. You need to stop, you know, when you need to just shut the brain down and, you know, just believe that you can do a little bit more. And I'm not saying doing anything stupid, you know, whatever. And stupid's relative, I guess, depending on, you know, the kind of person you are. But I'm not telling anyone to do anything stupid. Just believe that you can do more than you think you can, and keep reaching for something that you don't even realize you can do yet.
Yeah, don't be scared to try.
Nope.
So speaking of learning, I've got to go back to Barry's last statement. How's
Okay.
it going in the F8?
Okay. So
That is
no,
definitely a learning experience.
well, you know what? It was an awesome shirt. And I jumped up, you know, way faster than I usually would. So like my best bench is 445. And that last time I did, I went right from 405 to 455. You know, I usually wouldn't make that big a jump being that close to what the most I've ever lifted before. But the shirt is amazing. You know, and I didn't feel a thing in my shoulders, because one of my problems right now is even to hold something at lockout, I just can't hold it up. It hurts too much to hold up. And this shirt, I felt nothing. I felt nothing in my shoulders. It was amazing. Until a couple days later, but that was my own joint issue. So it would be something I need to definitely, and I mean, I went so heavy that day, you know, I need to, I think, probably slow it down a little bit. But it's amazing to know that I could do that after not even having, I mean, I'm never even having anything heavy in my hands in 3 years, you know, and to be able to move it that easily, to be that under control of it. That shirt is definitely, you know, knowing that you know, you could definitely do something freaking amazing in that shirt. That was very exciting. Very exciting.
Cool. Anything else, babe?
Oh, I have one.
Okay.
So powerlifting, much like every other sport, it's very easy to judge, right? It's very binary. You either lifted the most or you didn't lift the most. You either locked out the weight or you didn't lock out the weight. Bodybuilding is completely opinion. It is all based on the opinion of the judges. I can't in my mind think of how you would mentally go from something as simple as, yes, it was lifted or no, it wasn't lifted, to this person thinks I'm too big, but this person thinks that I'm too small. How do you mentally decide how to walk into the competition?
Well, you know what? And I have to admit that it was, like I said, you know, my last couple of shows, I placed differently than I expected, differently than my coach expected too. And that was hard for me to take a little bit, only because it was, and I think it's because you know how hard you worked for it. And like you compare yourself to somebody else and you're like, I know damn good and well my legs are twice as big as this chick, you know, what's going on? And so that was hard to wrap my head around. But in the end, for me, the type of person I am, I do not care what you think of how I look. So I think I would have a harder time with this if this was my sport. You know, if this was the sport I started in and I had worked years and years to get to the top, and I was having this issue and I didn't understand why, you know what I mean? But so like my take on it right now is like, you know what? I know damn good and well that I look better than, you know, that I look better than you're making me feel like I did, or whatever, or I should have placed better. So if there's something going on that's preventing me from getting there, I'm going to say, I don't care. And I'm going to come back next year looking the way that I want to look. And and you can just go keep explaining to somebody why I placed where I placed, you know, that kind of thing. So for me, I think right now it's a little bit different because this isn't my sport and I don't have aspirations to win the Olympia someday. I definitely would have a harder time with it if I did, you know, if this was what I was trying to do, like if I had been doing this all along. I don't know how somebody could stay in bodybuilding. And I mean, there's some things like, I mean, just the women. So the women that are at the top are not even the same shape as the women that are winning the shows to get there. So I don't even know where the new competition is supposed to be coming from. They judge it so differently, it would drive me nuts. I don't know how a person would do that. If it was their sport, that, that one that they were aspiring to be the best at the world at, I have no idea how to do that, how they would do that.
So really your judge of yourself is where the most gravity is put.
Yes. So for the kind of person I am and where I am in my career and what I'm doing, I'm just kind of like putting myself out in people's faces, and be like, I want to be the biggest, scariest motherfucker out there, and I don't care if that's what they're looking for in the stage or not. You know what I mean? Of course, I do try to do certain things. They tell me what I have to work on. I go work on that kind of thing. I do that. But it doesn't, but like for this whole thing for bodybuilding and stuff, where I'm getting most of my struggle and feeling of accomplishment is coming from, is that that super intense personal mental thing that I go through to get to the end, and just for me, I know, I'll tell you what, I do not believe that there's anybody that lets themselves suffer the way I let myself suffer. And I don't believe that there's anybody that, trains as hard and through as much pain as I train, you know what I mean? So it's different for me, but it definitely would be but it's definitely just because of where I am. If this was my sport, it would drive me nuts. I don't know how they do that.
I think they should let females be the judge of the females.
Yeah.
And I say that because men look at women very differently than women look at women.
Yes, that's true. And, I had a consultation actually with one of the top women in the world, because I had some questions about, supplements and training and stuff like that. And we were talking, and even she was like, she goes, I know that you want to go out and do your thing. She goes, but if you want to win, you're going to have to shake your butt a little. You're going to have to do this. You're going to have to do that. And that is not me. I'm not doing that. That's just not the person I am, so that's just not going to happen. And, but they definitely, so my point being is that, yes, they definitely are judging the women differently. They still want them to have this feminine look. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing or whatever, but it's bodybuilding. It's not
bodybuilding. Right.
Yeah. It's not like, it's not gender, blah, blah, blah. I don't know.
And we're not talking about the swimsuit. We're not talking about a swimsuit competition. We're talking about bodybuilding.
Well,
exactly.
How old the
and
judge
if you go to NP,
depending on how old the judge is or who the judge is.
Yes.
I remember growing up when Corey Everson, I think, was 6-time Ms. Olympia. Very different than what
yes.
it's come to now. I mean, things have evolved, training's evolved, supplements.
Yes.
So larger. I mean, that's just the way that it is.
Yeah. And I mean, I know at the Arnold this year, so the Olympia let bodybuilding back in, but I think part of that was because the Wings of Strength bought into, they own part of Olympia now. The Arnold's still not allowing bodybuilding, and further this year they removed physique as well, women's physique. And I don't really.
Bikini now?
Yes, the figure is the highest. Yep. And so I don't understand. From what I understand, it was Arnold's decision. And I personally, I haven't looked it up to research it because I hate news and I don't want to get myself all pissed off, that kind of thing. But from what I understand, it was his decision. And I don't know what kind of statement he's trying to make. But
he's a bodybuilder.
Yes. Yeah, I know. And
Sorry.
So why you're trying to hold back the women, I don't understand. You know what I mean? And to me, that's just a statement that goes along with, like I said, they're not looking for women to be, and for him, I mean, I don't know, I guess I understand that all of these divisions got made because there was money makers, and, they took bodybuilding out in the first place because, in the actual whole total population, most people probably still really don't appreciate a woman that is extremely muscular or whatever. But I can't imagine, that I can't, I could only hope that there's just so much pushback that he regrets that, because I can't imagine, I just I can't imagine anyone accepting, you know, somebody. To me, you might as well be just coming right out and like holding women down, you know what I mean? And saying, or patting them on the head and being like, you're too big, you know, and to take physique out too. It's just like, I don't know, to me, it's like it's a personal insult, you know,
It's
to just
personal
say, well,
attack.
I'm going to keep punishing you, you know, and so I don't know. I would love to say that, oh, he's going to feel it. He's going to regret making this decision. And all I can really say is I hope so, because it's unfortunate and I think it's disgusting. And again, it makes me very happy that this is not my sport of choice, because they have no idea the kind of like banshee hell that I would become if this was, you know, something that I was passionate about and trying and aspiring to be number one at. I don't know how these guys, yeah, I just don't know how you stay in bodybuilding, you know, as a sport.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard to call it female bodybuilding and then hold down the women that are building
Yeah,
their bodies.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only one set of rules. If you go to the website and it says the rules for bodybuilding, there's only one set. So if, you know, men and female alike are both adhering to those rules, you know, the striations and the, you know, the asymmetry and blah, 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 then they should be, you know, being judged the same. You know, if you're, I guess, you know what, if you want to say that, you go stick that in the rules. Well, for females, you have to, you know, not exceed your, I don't know, quad size, can't exceed your, I don't freaking know.
Yeah.
But unless you're going to do something like, and then if you do that, that's your choice and people need to follow the rules. But if you're going to have one set of rules for everybody, they should be all treated the same. So
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to actually bring up one other thing that Barry and I talked about last night, and this is a very sticky subject right now, but I'm just going to put it out there because this is my video and I can. We were talking last night about transgender athletes competing in, you know, like men competing in women's divisions. And you actually you came up because you're strong as hell, like you are. And you're very vocal about what you do and what you take. You know, it's not a secret. And you still, no matter what you do, you can't compete against Bear. Like there's no competition there.
Right.
What did you say her best squat was? And this is how it came about last night. We were looking at your numbers.
So as one of the best female powerlifters of all time, your best multiply squat was 705. Right. And you are a full power lifter.
Right.
I am not a full power person. I only enjoy benching. I squat literally once every 3 to 5 months. And I decided to throw my hat in the full power ring. And in a set of knee wraps, raw, I squatted 700. And the most I'd ever squatted prior to that was 610. And that was 7-8 months prior. So it literally, somebody who I couldn't, a 700-pound squat could not be closer to the bottom of the bucket when we talk about raw strength for men. And you at the top of the sport at 705. In my opinion, and I guess you'd have to be a hell of a person to convince me otherwise. No matter how hard women try, they are not going to be able to compete against even a mediocre athlete, you know, like me, in the same movement.
I think that where a lot of this gets sticky is that, you know, it's not always a very strong man that is choosing to compete as a woman, or, you know, is transgendering to a woman. And so even if you said most of the time their strength would be comparable to a female, okay, let's just even say that that's, even if it were true, right?
Okay.
That's not always the case. And you are going to say, you know, Janae Kroc, you know, who I absolutely love. I'm good friends with her.
And this is kind of why I wanted to bring it up. I just kind of wanted to get a different side of it.
Right. And she's told me ever since, the beginning, she had said that she would never compete unless she was able, like not weak enough, but that her strength had come down, and that never happened, and she never tried to compete. I know that there was always rumors, but as far as any time I had ever talked to her, she never had any intentions of competing. But let's just say she did, and she's taking estrogen, and she's, doing all this other stuff. And let's just say her test level read super, super low. You know what I mean? She would still, for the reason like you just said, still be way stronger than any female that ever stepped onto the platform.
Right. Because
And
she has the name of Janae, but she has the tendon and ligament integrity and the bone density of Matt.
Yeah.
And
right. Yes. And so, right. And then, and so that's like that top extreme, right? And that would not be fair. So even if you come back to those ones that, if you say, they're still weak for a guy or whatever, and, maybe they felt they've always been kind of feminine, and that's what they made them change the trans, whatever, where the reason they're transgendering over to female. And there's females out there, lifting more than them. They still had the benefit of testosterone in their body right from the very start. And their, muscle development, ligament, tendons, bone, whatever, that it's still all benefited from that. And if you took me, or, okay, let's just say someone, they're, on an equal strength level as them, and gave that female that same benefit, it would have been illegal. And so that's where that's where my thing is. Now, I think that it gets sticky because a lot of them, like I said, a lot of them are coming in and they could be competitive with a female. Females could be competitive with them, but you can't say, well, we'll only let you in if you're, you know what I mean? And you can't go by the test level at the time that they're, I from what I understand, that's how they're trying to do it. If
right, the test level at the time of the competition.
Because that's still,
gone through puberty
from testing your body your entire life. And so you can't draw that line. If you're going to say it's okay for one, you got to say it's okay for all of them. So you can't say, well, Janae is special, so we can't let her do it, but we'll let all these other people because they're weaker to begin with. You can't do that. Plain and simple. It is my opinion that, whatever you were born as, that's just what you're going to have to compete as, because there's just, I think first, I mean, I have my own opinions, like you said, as far as like hadn't had tests in your body your whole life. I didn't get to train I didn't get to do that because, like you said, I can take whatever I want. And let me tell you, I've taken some crazy ass amounts of shit, and you're right, I'm still never going to be as strong as the strongest guys. So that true equal competitive playing field does not exist. It doesn't.
Right. And I guess that's kind of my point. Like, I don't want to ever sound like I'm excluding anybody. Like,
no,
I guess I hope people, I need people to understand from somebody who's there, who's in that position, that there isn't an equal playing field, period.
Well,
like he said,
how do you encourage women to come into the sport knowing that they may win that meet, but they can't ever be a Rheta West. They can't be Shauna Mendelson. They can't be a Laura Phelps because, we have, and I don't know what feds allow it and what feds don't. I don't know if any of them allow it at this point. Maybe RPS allow the transgender, but, regardless, if that starts to happen, we lose all the motivation that
you're seeing it more in high schools now, more in high schools than anywhere else. You're seeing it in high school sports. And I think that's where it's going to start to discourage female athletes. And
yes, well, it's also, I think, of course, it's my opinion that it's just, it's unfortunately today's world is a little more concerned with hurting people's feelings than it is with, actual, facts and fairness. Science. and
science.
Suck it up. This is life,
Yeah.
But I think that it also, especially doing that from high school, from the high school, the high school, I think that I'm, like I said, I stay out of news. It's just my immediate, thought, having children. I've raised two children, that it causes a lot of unnecessary confusion, uncertainty, I mean, kids are going through shit all the time. And then they're already going through all of this, like not knowing themselves, not knowing, what they want, and, being uncomfortable in their own bodies regardless.
Yeah, it's very
And,
different when we're talking about somebody at, Janae's age and Janae's point in life, where they, she knows who she is and what she wants to do.
Right.
That's a very different, that's a
Yes,
totally different topic.
Yes, it is. And she's mature, responsible adult with like a whole different thought process going on. You can't expect
her brain's finished growing.
Yeah. You can't expect teenagers, all their hormones raging and doing all this kind of stuff, to be able to sit and think responsibly, realistically, maturely on the topic,
Yeah, I think that's where we as parents need to step in and be like, okay, hey, let's rationalize a lot of this, I guess, is just kind of where I'm at. And especially, I have a son that plays football, I have a son that power lifts, and I have a daughter that runs meets with me. I don't know. It's disheartening some days. It's scary when you're a mom that has teenagers. So
yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, I think that's anything else.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Absolutely. How are you guys doing though? Like,
we're doing good.
I keep, I don't really say a lot, on social media or whatever, but I do keep an eye on things. So I know you're feeling better.
I am. I had my last procedure this past Tuesday. They went in and they stretched my esophagus and did another round of Botox. I've put on about 3 pounds, 2 or 3 pounds all by myself. So
great.
Thank you. So I've been able to pretty much eat whatever I wanted, within reason. So my PICC line is out. I'm eating on my own. No more. Shouldn't have any more procedures. I mean, having my esophagus stretched and the Botox I may have to do again. It's just kind of, I have to see how I feel. If I start to feel like I have a lump in my throat, then I just go back and have it done again. But other than that, I feel great. My stomach is adjusting to having food in it. So, we're dealing with that, but I feel great. He's doing great. They restored 100% blood flow to his heart. He had the heart attack. They went in, they were able to go in, and his Widowmaker was 99.8% blocked. Like he was just a walking ball of luck, honestly.
I was training through all of it. I didn't go to the hospital for
he was
6 days. I didn't know that I didn't know that anything had happened.
He was doing kettlebell swings and Turkish get-ups and just out there training away. But they did the stent. They were able to restore 100% blood flow. He has no heart damage from it. That was,
awesome.
We were shocked, but no heart damage. A little bit of high blood pressure, but I mean, we're power lifters. That's to be expected. And of course the doctors are freaking out because his blood pressure's high. And I'm just like, he's fine. Like he's okay. I promise. It's
right.
His blood pressure looks good. They're like, well, it's 165/98. I'm like, that's great. That's great blood pressure. What are you talking about? So no, he's slowly but surely getting back to training. And I think I'm actually going to start doing some physique type training just for me. No competition. Just, I can't lift a whole lot of heavy. I can't take in enough nutrition to do the powerlifting thing. But I've lost so much weight that I need to tone. I've lost almost 90 pounds, 85, 90 pounds in the past since, December was a year since I started losing weight. So just need to tone up some, and I can't power lift right now. I can't eat enough to do that. So I think I'm going to start doing some physique type something. I don't know. I may even be leaning on you and Shauna and all of my girls to kind of help me, because this is all new for me.
Yeah.
All new. Like I know how to go out there and squat, bench, and deadlift.
Yeah.
I can do that. But anything outside of that, and I'm just ignorant. I'll be honest. So, but no, I think we're doing.
I want to say too that I think that this is a wonderful thing that you're doing. I was just talking to someone this morning, along the same lines I was talking with the bench meet. That there's women out there doing some great things, and it tends to be only certain people on social media get more attention, you know, or maybe they're not doing anything at all. But I love that you're out there getting to just everybody. There is, no favoritism. Nobody's any better than anybody else. I tell them in my gym too, and I love that feel, and I love you getting different people's stories out there and giving them their time to be able to, kind of talk about themselves and
Well,
and
thank
feel
you.
appreciated.
And it's so much fun. And, it's been a little rough with me being sick. I've taken weeks off here and there. And so I feel bad. And there's so many people that I want to get to. And I'm like, oh, I need to call her and I need to talk to her. And like, oh, but I just have to give myself some grace and be like, nope, there's another week and, I will get there. So I just kind of make a list and I'm like, all right. Last night I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have anybody lined up. Oh my gosh, I completely forgot to, well, it snowed here and he was off work for 2 days. Kids were out of school. I mean, it's Texas and we got ice and snow. And so everything closed.
Yeah.
And so, Thursday, Friday, they were all off work and then rolled around to Saturday. I'm like, oh crap. Oh, shoot. All right. Who do I want to interview tomorrow? And I was like, okay, well, the first person on my list is Rheta. So I'm going to go to her first. And if she's available, that's who I'll do. And if not, then I'll just start going down the list. So, but it's a lot of fun. I will say it's nerve wracking, we talked about it last night, with Shauna. I had met Shauna before, or it would have been the same way, but now I'm just talking to Shauna. And so,
yeah,
much easier now that I've, sat down and we've talked and I'm like, okay,
oh,
good.
that's cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you the same thing I tell everybody. I know how important your time is. I know how valuable it is. And I know that your time is your livelihood. So I want you to know that I appreciate you taking the time out to sit down with me, and your story means a lot to me. And I thank you so much.
You're welcome. And thank you.
My pleasure. All right. Well, I'm going to let you go get back to it. I appreciate you. And I had a blast. I will send you a message. I'll get with you about sponsoring your bench meet. And
Okay, yeah.
I
I'll send
will
her the video of Chris too.
Yeah, we'll send you. Oh,
Already
we'll send
did.
you. Oh, Barry sent you the video of Chris when he was squatting.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So, and I'll see you.
Oh, the bad one. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's,
Butt pucker.
yeah, it's rough. So, but we'll see you in July, and then we will do our best to make it up there in September. But either way, we will absolutely be a sponsor. So,
all right, thanks
for being part of our family.
Absolutely.
And give the dog extra kisses for us.
Okay, I will do
Thanks,
that.
Rheta. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.